Welcome to the 49 Yard Dash Podcast, a podcast on your San Francisco 49ers, hosted by myself, Stephen Ellis, and of course, joined by my good friend and co-host, Josh LaFond. Today, we've seen a lot of people ranking top three of this and that, and a lot of under 25 rankings, but me and Josh decided we're going to rank the top three best players in the league today at each position. We'll just do offense today, maybe defense next week. So let's get into it. We got that for you. Let's dive right in. Once again, we welcome you to the 49 Yard Dash Podcast. And today, as mentioned, we're ranking the top three players at each position in the NFL today, right now. Who's the best of the best? Josh, before we get into this, man, any opening comments? How you doing?
I just, love some Grant Cohn. Was watching the live broadcast today. He's my favorite reporter in the 49ers world. Anything been going on with him lately or something? I keep seeing people talk about him. But anyway, I thought he put together some good questions and stuff today. And, man, I'm just excited to talk about some football. I'm inspired by Cohn as well. So,
man.
After hearing everything, Jimmy Ward talking today, all the Trey Lance hype, I'm ready to run through a brick wall feet first, man.
Man, I even saw Peter Schrager, Good Morning Football.
Yeah.
One of the only mainstream media guys who's actually reading reports from people with ties to the organization instead of, because right now everybody on Fox Sports and ESPN, all they want to talk about is the stuff that some random joker in Philadelphia said, or an ex-center that talked about arm fitness and bashed Trey Lance for that. But it's nice to see somebody, Peter Schrager, props to him.
Don't forget a former disgraced Jets scout from 1925 or whatever.
Oh my God! Don't even get me started on that guy.
No, it is refreshing to see that the national media finally takes notice of local guys, because like we went on a mild rant last week.
Yes,
those are the guys that know what in the world's going on.
Exactly. That's right. So it's nice to see somebody on TV talking about the right sources, at least, man.
Yep.
But as mentioned, we're talking the best players in the NFL. Me and Josh head to head, see whose rankings are better or what we think. And not really who's better. It's all subjective anyways, but
it'll be debated silently.
That's right. No, I'm sure at some point we'll have a debate or two. Where do you want to start? Generally, you start with quarterback, but we could save that. But either way.
Why don't we start on the outside and work our way in? Start with offensive tackles.
Go backwards.
Receiver, tight end, running back, and then end with quarterback.
I think that's a great idea.
Right, let's go 3-1 as well, because I want to hear your worst one first. Right. It's like, I don't want the Blizzard before the Outback Steakhouse. I want my Oreo Blizzard after, my Whopper meal,
Yeah.
I want a sweet treat.
Absolutely. The offensive tackles, my number 3.
All right.
The only right tackle on the list.
All right.
My guy from Iowa, Tristan Wirfs, who will enter his third year. Yeah, all the way at number 3. The only right tackle on this list. He's the best right tackle, and I got him at 3 overall.
You're going to hate my list then.
Okay.
That's my number 3. Your other boy.
Yeah.
The future ESPN broadcaster, because he went to a school that puts everybody on TV, Rashawn Slater out of Northwestern.
Oh, wow. Slater. Nice. I do love Slater. Yeah.
I'm excited to see who your number 2 is then, because I didn't think you were putting Wirfs at 3.
Oh, yeah. No, well, my number 2 actually didn't play last year, so he's kind of out of everybody's brains right now. But I think he'll come back and go back to number 2 like he was in 2019, David Bakhtiari.
Like him a lot.
Yeah, I think last time we saw him, he was the second best tackle. So I'm keeping him there until I see otherwise.
Yeah, I guess I probably overreacted a little to him just because of that injury.
Yeah,
It
yeah,
With the amount of time it's taken him to come back, it does concern
yeah,
me
yeah.
that maybe he's fallen back a little bit. But he's right there for me. Him and Slater were 3A and 3B. I just like the youth and upside of Slater as my number 3 guy this year. But when it comes to beer chugging, Bakhtiari is second to none.
Absolutely.
You want a franchise guy who's not sipping the bud. He can guzzle it, man. So
He downs it,
I like
man.
I like Bakhtiari there.
Yeah, no, and that's totally logical too, because he very well could be a lesser player when he comes back this year. But honestly, I don't really know what to do with stuff like that. We'll actually get to another guy who's in a really similar situation for me soon. Basically, the way I think, until I see the drop off, I don't want to rank the drop off.
Yeah,
but it makes sense to assume after missing. He hasn't played football in a year and a half, or almost 2 years now, that he could be taking a step back. Yeah.
Well, and see, that's kind of where when we did our list last year, I don't think we did an episode on it, but just talking about it privately, there was a few different skill position guys, offensive guys that I had easily inside my top 10, one of them being Calvin Ridley. And we know how that went. That's a different issue altogether. But it does kind of make you gun shy seeing that. But nonetheless, I like him there. My number 2, your guy, you spoke about him, Tristan Wirfs, defensive tackle, Iowa, clear stud. Like you said, right tackle, pure right tackle, awesome football player. And really, he could play any position on the line, which our number 1 also can as well. But I do love Tristan Wirfs a lot. And he's a guy, does pain you to see the 49ers could have had a chance to go up and get.
That's the dude that I wanted the whole time, too.
No, it does make you sick thinking of him in the red and gold. That
was my guy in the draft. That year, I was saying that the Giants should take him at 4. I took Andrew Thomas, and then when he was available for the 49ers and they traded back, I was heartbroken, to be quite honest. I was. He was my guy.
I know we're not talking about it, but that's why you don't draft for replacement straight up like the did and like the 49ers do, because you passed on a guy like that. And I feel bad because I'm an idiot. But I was just looking at the draft real quick. I actually liked, and this is disgusting to say, I actually liked Isaiah Wilson. That dude played like 1 year. And then made up a story about Jim Harbaugh wearing cleats in the house and goes on busting with the boys with Will Compton and Taylor Lewan and is talking all this mess, and then gets kicked off the team.
That was a rough one.
But
he had a bunch of talent. He did.
Yeah.
Yeah, he is super talented. But I'll tell you who's talented is the clear number 1.
Yep.
Represents these San Francisco 49ers and dang near broke Pro Football Focus's grading scale last year. Trent Williams, the best in the game right now.
Yeah, he's arguably 1A and 1B with Aaron Donald for best player in the NFL.
Player. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's crazy what the Washington football team, well, they weren't the football team, the Redskins at the time, what the Washington team decided to give him up for. It's crazy. Yeah. Just pay that man. Man.
Yeah. What was it, a 3rd round pick straight up or something like that? I think. I could be misremembering, but it's something like that, yeah.
Yeah, no, it's crazy. And like we were talking about a second ago with Wirfs, he can play any position on the line. Guard, center, tackle. Obviously, he's the best left tackle. Like we were just saying, one of the best football players in the entire NFL. But just a beast, man. And just out of curiosity, pulling it up here, because I'm curious to remember what that compensation was as well. It was a 5th round pick in 20 and a 3rd round in 21.
Okay. It was a 3rd and a 5th. Okay. Still.
That's insane.
Yeah. Again, you could argue the 2nd best player in the league.
And let's see. While we're on the subject, I feel like we're going to fly through this list. Let's see who the Washington team picked at number 5, and then at number 3. Let's see here.
With those picks?
Yeah, with those picks.
Mm-hmm.
They picked Keith Ismail, center from San Diego State. He is still playing for the Commanders, but he has only started 5 games and only played in 18, and he's played for 2 years. Now the 49ers 2021 pick, that was a 3rd round. Let's see what that one became.
Okay, that was the 5th round. Okay.
Yeah, that was a 5th round from 20. So the guys had 2 years to play and didn't do anything. 3rd round here. Of course, the 49ers picked Ambry Thomas there. Let's see here. That became Benjamin St-Juste, who a cornerback from Minnesota. He has currently to date 26 tackles, 3 deflections. A guy who was took a medical red shirt and a medical retirement rather from Michigan. I remember that, transferred to Minnesota. Somehow was able to play there. He has been on the IR since December of 21.
Sounds like a fair trade.
Great. Benjamin St-Juste, who is a safety playing corner, a center who didn't do anything. They gave them up for Trent Williams, probably the top 2 player in all football.
That's wild. That's wild.
That's nasty.
Interior offensive line. My number 3, he resides in Cleveland, Joel Bitonio. He was one of Pro Football Focus's highest graded guys as well. He's been elite for a few seasons now. He's at number 3 for me.
That's my guy as well. So
okay, yeah.
I only agree outside of the number 1, but no, that Cleveland offensive line. I don't know what the quarterback situation will be. Obviously, I think everybody's kind of waiting on pins and needles, especially if you live in the state of Ohio. But it just seems like we ragged on the Cowboys here a few weeks ago about how they lost a generational offensive line by poor roster decisions. Well, the Browns are going to do the same thing. And do the same exact thing. Generational defense, offensive line, running back. And then here you go, wasting it because you can't make good personnel decisions.
It's horrible. That is such a mess.
Yep.
Such a mess. It's getting worse and worse, too, the more we find out. My number 2 is Zach Martin, the Dallas Cowboys. Okay. You have the same one?
Also my number 2.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. He was the best in the league for a while before the number 1 guy was drafted because Zach Martin's been in the league longer. He is honestly a generational guard. It's just the guy that we have number 1 is like all-time good guard. So Zach Martin's awesome.
Well, can I reveal our number 1?
Absolutely.
Quentin Nelson.
Yes.
The Indianapolis Colts. It would have been really funny if I said Shaq Mason.
Just somebody.
Yeah, Shaq Mason, number 1. So real big fan of Quentin Nelson. Both of us are. Road grader, pass protector. He's a beast, man.
He's dominant in every facet that a guard can be, and he's good enough where, if needed, you could throw him an offensive tackle for sure. I mean, no doubt, he's that good. But best guard in the league, man.
Yeah, I know. And when you're talking about best player, what's their versatility? If they're outside receiver, can they be moved around? If they're a tight end, can they come in and block? Can they be a red zone threat? Can they be a pure route runner, possession guy? Running backs, can they catch the ball? When you're talking about offensive linemen, well, if we're in an injury pinch and I don't have anybody at right tackle, but I've got a nice backup left tackle, I'm going to put Trent Williams at right. If that's what the problem is, and there's no reason you can't. Same thing with Quentin Nelson. If you need to throw him at tackle because that's where the need's at, or you need him to play center in a pinch, he can do it. So all 6 of these guys in reality, they're not just locked into their position. They can rotate across the line. And ironically enough, arguably our top 3 guys, Nelson, Williams and Wirfs for me, Bakhtiari, Williams and Nelson for you, they can play all 5 positions.
Yeah, I mean, they're they're excellent football players. Put them out there to play football.
Yeah.
It's as simple as that. These guys are dominant.
So here's where things gets interesting. If you stuck with the first 15, I'm a little surprised. I guess at myself in the tackle rankings. I should have known Steve would have Bakhtiari there, but I knew our guards would be the same. I thought our tackles would be the same. Now is where it gets interesting here at the skill positions down the home stretch.
Yeah. Let's start out with tight end. Do you want me to continue going first, or you want to swap it up, or
go first?
Okay. My number 3, he would not have been number 3 for me last year, but he had such a good season this year. For Baltimore, Mark Andrews.
Don't know how I feel about putting him up there for me. He's my clear number 4.
Okay, yeah.
I like him a ton. I just wonder about how much of his impact was because of the necessity to get him the ball.
Yeah.
Like when the 49ers had no offensive weapons at all, and it was 200-yard games from George Kittle.
Yeah.
So my number 3, I think he still supplanted himself here. Another good year for Mark Andrews might remove him from the spot, but Darren Waller.
Yeah, he was my honorable mentioner, number 4. He's definitely had a better career than Mark Andrews. Mark Andrews has really only had one elite season, you'd say. So normally I'm not one to change rankings based on one season, but I think I did the Bakhtiari thing here. I didn't see Waller for part of last year, and then Mark Andrews had his best year. So it's like, I think we kind of did the same thing at different positions.
Yeah, we both kind of contradicted ourselves in the reason for which we did that, because I said about being scared to put a guy on there who didn't do much and was injured. Well, that's Waller. And then you did what I did. I need to prove it. Well, Andrews has one good year, and here we are supplanting Waller, but contradicting ourselves here nonetheless.
Yeah, but we both know who the top 2 are, at least.
Yeah.
And in the correct order, at least.
Well, then can I say my number 2?
Absolutely.
Okay, David Njoku.
Oh.
No, Travis Kelce and George Kittle. Kelce clear 2. George Kittle, in our minds, a complete. I don't even want to talk about Kelce because it's been spoken ad nauseum, his whole deal and his overhypement. But George Kittle, because we're homers, because we have eyeballs, he's a 6 offensive lineman. He's a Gronk-esque tight end threat in the red zone, and is more versatile than any tight end on this list. The reason Andrews was my number 4 and didn't jump Waller in reality is because I was thinking about it. And I was like, well, what does Mark Andrews do good? Well, he's a poor man's George Kittle. Well, I can put a poor man version of my number 1 in the top 3 because he hasn't gotten there yet. But that's really what Mark Andrews is. He does some of the things Kittle does, but nobody does it the way Kittle does. Kelce can't pass protect the way Kittle can. Waller can't help out in run blocking. They're not as pure route runners as Kittle. They all do stuff well, but George does them completely.
Yeah, and I've actually discussed this with a lot of Chiefs fans jumping on me on Twitter because I made a comment about Kittle being the best tight end. So a bunch of Chiefs fans have been attacking me. But George Kittle has shown that when he gets the same number of targets as Kelce, he produces even more.
Yeah.
The season, Travis Kelce just set the all-time record for most receiving yards in a season for a tight end. That was George Kittle's record that he broke. George Kittle did it catching from the sweet trio of Jimmy Garoppolo, C.J. Beathard, and Nick freaking Mullins. Okay? Not Patrick Mahomes.
Like
That's true. Nick Mullins was the GOAT. But no, he can produce catching the football at the same level when given the targets. It's just the 49ers are a run-first team, and they like to spread the ball around because they have 3 – arguably 4 really good targets that they can throw the ball to. And then the blocking is just, you said it, he's a 6th offensive lineman. I mean, he's unbelievable. He loves doing it. He's borderline a tackle and a receiver in one. Nobody else can say that.
Yeah, no, and not that Kelce's a bad dude or anything.
No, of course not.
He's more of a me-first guy, and it's been pretty evident throughout his career. He needs his touches, and that's why he gets his touches.
Yeah.
And not just because he wants them and needs them, but for Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes to win football games.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Eric Bieniemy is drawing up plays for him to appease both parties. George is never going to complain. I think he's. I'm trying to remember the last interview. I know he said it 100 times and nearly verbatim. He's happy running the ball 100 times a game.
Yes.
That's probably his preference.
He loves pancakes.
He loves pancakes, and that's what you want out of a tight end.
Yeah.
Where a guy where you can say, George, we need you to go out and get 20 receptions and 3 touchdowns this game, and we need you to be our entire passing offense. All right, coach. And then, hey, we're throwing the ball 5 times, and none of the targets are coming to you. We're running downhill against the Packers in the playoffs. We need you to hold your own on the end. All right, I got it.
Yep.
The other guys on that list, even Mark Andrews, who's built in a similar mold, I don't think any of them can be tasked with that and deliver that.
Right. No, he's unbelievably versatile, and I think you could put it this way too. Travis Kelce, if you want to make the argument that he's the best receiving tight end in the game, you can make that argument.
Yep.
But he's probably the 15th best blocking tight end, something. He's pretty average with that for most of his career. He's had one elite run blocking season in his whole career. George Kittle, if you made that argument for Kelce, you could say he's the second best receiving tight end, but the best blocking tight end. Top 2 in both regards. None of those other guys can say that.
No, they can't. They can't.
No, yeah,
Hill's a clear number 1 to me. I think Kelce's a clear number 2. And then your debate between Waller, Andrews, and I'd even consider throwing Hawkinson in there as a mention as well. Those guys are that next group. And then you kind of got, everybody else after that.
And maybe this time next year, who knows? Maybe Kyle Pitts is in the conversation.
Kyle Pitts, Noah Fant.
Yeah.
A lot of guys who I think
Goddard.
Tunyon. There's a lot of guys in that next group. But I think, in speaking for you, again, to reiterate, Kittle clear number 1, Kelce clear number 2.
Yes.
Pollard and Andrews. And then there's a pretty big gap.
Totally agree with that. Totally agree with that.
It's probably going to stay that way until these guys get on the twilights of their careers.
Yeah. This next one I'm really curious about. Wide receiver. I think we'll have the same number 1.
Yeah.
But I don't know after that. I really don't. So
I had a really hard time with this list.
Me too. There's so many good receivers.
There's so many good receivers, and there's several guys that I felt I needed to put at number 3, but there were guys that I wanted to put at number 3. My 1 and 2 are pretty clear. It's really number 3 of who do I want to put, who should I put, and need to put.
Yeah.
You want to go first?
Sure, yeah. And I had the same exact predicament. Who do I want? Who should I? And this is who I landed on. I think who I should put here. He just won a triple crown.
Yeah.
I'm putting Cooper Kupp here. My eye test, if you ask me who are you taking on your team, I think I'll take Justin Jefferson and A.J. Brown over this guy, probably. But he just won the triple crown. He is definitely in the conversation, even from an eye test standpoint. He is that good. I think he deserves to be here. So I put Cooper Kupp at 3.
That was my same predicament. And I would I venture to put DeAndre Hopkins there as well, just because you saw the impact of him being out on the Cardinals offense, and you're going to really feel it this year. He is the Cardinals offense. And even at his age is still producing like a madman. But yeah, I felt like I had to put Kupp here just because of the season he had. And, really even the last 2 or 3 years, even going back to when he was playing with Goff, you see the same traits. This was his breakout year. Now, when he sees the same attention across the whole season, who knows? It's easy to draw that attention in the playoffs, I think, for these athletes and still produce. But when you're seeing it for 17 games, or if he plays in 15 and rest too, whatever, how much of that attention can he withstand? I guess we'll see. But I felt like I needed to put Kupp here.
Yeah.
But preface it with Jefferson, Brown, I'm taking over him if I'm building a team.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Well, now, based on some of the comments you made there, I'm not sure that we do have the same number 2.
Really? All right.
because my number 2 is DeAndre Hopkins.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Right.
This is the next David Bakhtiari situation for me.
Right.
Because I feel like the last time I saw this guy, I put him at 2. But he misses half of last year. He's going to miss half of the first half of this year. And he's getting, you'd say, up in age. He could be lower. But again, I think the last time I watched this guy, I thought he was the second best in the league. So I put him 2.
Yeah. So, again, we've managed to look onto ourselves here. This is a wild leap, and I'm surprised if that was your number 2 that you didn't mention this guy. You're going to hate me for this, but Ja'Marr Chase, number 2.
Wow.
Me. I feel like he's already, and not just because of Burrow.
Mm-hmm.
It's funny when you look back last year, everyone's like, oh, he's having drop issues in camp and all this stuff.
I know, that was funny.
And then has one of the best rookie years of any wide receiver. Was along with Burrow. Of course, Joe Burrow is Joe Burrow. He's great. They've got a great running back in Joe Mixon. And they had great tight ends as well. But I just felt like that was their number 1 option. And
it was.
Along with Burrow, that connection is the reason they got to where they did. So him establishing himself, that's why I've got him there. Kind of swapping out, I guess. Did you even have Ja'Marr Chase contention for number 3, or where would you have him at?
I did write him in my honorable mentions. I had my top 3, and I had 4 names in my honorable mention: Justin Jefferson, A.J. Brown, Stephon Diggs, Ja'Marr Chase. And can I make a case on why I don't think he should be number 2 just yet?
Sure.
I think so. Compare his rookie season to Justin Jefferson's. They're like neck and neck. I mean, they both had 2 of the better rookie seasons ever. And then Justin Jefferson very quietly had 1,600 yards this year and it 10 touchdowns or whatever. So in my opinion, I don't think you can put Chase over Jefferson just simply because Jefferson has done it 2 years now with an inferior quarterback. So I think it's hard to put Chase over Jefferson unless it is just an eye test thing. Like you look at. Okay, yeah. See, I don't mind that.
I think Chase is just and I don't want to sound ridiculous, but when you watch him neck and neck, he's a much more fluid receiver. I would argue than Diggs or Jefferson for that matter. He's got that kind of Hopkins-esque fluidity to him. My number 1 doesn't even have that, but they're just a smooth guy. Watching them on the field, their routes are precise. They win jump balls. They're physical at the line of scrimmage. And Jefferson does a lot of stuff really good. So does Stephon Diggs. And who is the other honorable? And A.J. Brown, obviously. That's my favorite wide receiver in the league. Yeah. Just from a fluidity standpoint, from a catching standpoint, from a route running standpoint, kind of the 3 things I look at watching wide receivers, I think he's the second best in football at doing those things. And when you put that in connection with the Bengals' success coming on back, that's kind of why I've got him there.
Yeah, I think him and A.J. Brown are more similar, and then Justin Jefferson and Stephon Diggs are more similar.
I would agree with that.
Yeah, Brown and Chase are both fluid and run good routes, but their primary way of dominating is they're freaks, and they catch everything, right? But Jefferson and Diggs, they are route running specialists. That's what they do. They're also a little bit smaller. So, they're different types of receivers for sure.
They are. And honestly, if I was going with my heart, I would have Jefferson or Diggs at 3 instead of Kupp.
Yeah, right. Me too.
I know we're talking about Hopkins. I guess let's throw him in the conversation too. I already forgot about him. But you put in Kupp stats, and that's kind of where it throws a wrench in this whole conversation. Yeah. And it's not because he's white. I love to win over in Wes Welker, but just from that kind of the way he plays, I thought the 49ers did a really good job of defending him. I know he put up some yards and stuff. That was Stafford's go-to guy.
Yeah.
All 3 of their meetings this season. All 3 of their meetings this season. And I had to do a double take on that one. But I just feel like Chase, even Hopkins, Jefferson, Diggs, if I was building a team, I'm taking them over Kupp.
Yeah.
So that's kind of what threw a wrench in my whole deal. But I get what you're saying on Chase. I just like him a lot from an eye test standpoint.
Absolutely. That's part of it. It absolutely is. But I think, number one, he's earned it.
Yeah.
It's Davante Adams. And we're curious to see how it goes in Vegas, of course, instead of Green Bay. How much was Aaron Rodgers a part of that? I think he's a part of it because the chemistry they have. I mean, the back shoulder fades. Oh, my gosh. Rodgers to Adams, unbelievable. But I think Adams is, the best route runner in the league.
Mm-hmm.
He's sure-handed. He's got the top speed. He understands the field and the open space, knows how to get there. And I hope him and Carr have good chemistry too, because I don't want to miss out on that.
No, and people forget that, Carr and Adams were the tandem at Fresno State.
Fresno, yeah. Mm-hmm.
I think they're still best friends or whatever in each other's wedding or all that. But so you've got chemistry there, but it's different than, playing with the same guy for 5-6 years. They've had several years off. Carr has gotten better. Adams has gotten better. How much of that will be maintained? I don't know. I am really curious to see that because in the next year, Adams takes a step back. Jamar Chase, PFF's number 2 overall wide receiver.
Mm-hmm.
How big of a year does he have? Justin Jefferson, Stephon Diggs again with Josh Allen, DeAndre Hopkins after his suspension. We'll see how it goes. But yeah, he's just put together so many monster seasons in a row. You can't even have him number 1.
Oh, yeah, he's earned it. He has. Yeah, absolutely. This is another one I'm unsure exactly how it's going to go at running back.
I think we're going to see the same predicament continued where our top 2 is the same and our third is going to be contentious.
Yeah. I'll kick it off. My number 3 is Christian McCaffrey.
All right.
My number is Christian McCaffrey. Of course, there's the injury stuff. But honestly, I think he's awesome. He's a good running back. Dude's practically a good receiver. I mean, he runs crisp routes. He could be the best player in fantasy football again.
Yeah.
But there's a little bit of a knock here for the durability. And I really do think that these other 2 guys that I have are also really, really, really special in their own rights. So I end up with McCaffrey 3.
So, and again, it came down to 4 names for me. It came down to Christian McCaffrey.
Mm-hmm.
It came down to, and I hope I'm not going to name any of these guys who are in your top 2 because that's going to piss me off. So it came down to Christian McCaffrey, Joe Mixon, Alvin Kamara, and Najee Harris.
Okay, yeah.
That was my top 4. Why no Derrick Henry? He's fine. He's such a bull. He's such a bull in a china shop, and I think that's good in so many ways. But the 4 I mentioned, I feel like are more complete backs. I went with Joe Mixon here just because I think he's put together some healthy seasons. Again, monster year last year was such a big focal point of the Bengals offense. Some of the games, thinking back to that Raiders playoff game, I believe it was.
Yeah.
Raiders defended Burrow fairly well there early on, and they really leaned on Mixon, and he delivered. Anytime they had to lean on Mixon between the tackles, pass game, he's such a perfect blend of power and versatility, which you don't see a ton of. Great out of the backfield, receiving the ball. You can line him up in the slot. Maybe not as versatile as Christian McCaffrey, but versatile enough. And most of all, he holds on to the football and is just a relentless power back. So I've got him at number 3.
Well, you might be upset with me based on some of the comments you made because I got Derrick Henry too.
All right.
It's similar to the Cooper Kupp thing where it's just like I feel like I have to. He's been so productive the last 2 years.
Yeah.
And the Titans' offense has been significantly worse when he doesn't play. I am someone who thinks running backs are more plug and play, that you shouldn't prioritize drafting them and even paying them. I don't want to pay a running back, honestly. But this guy and the next guy make me question that theory at least because as he goes, the Titans' offense seems to go to an extent at least. I mean, he's been so dominant and productive the last 2 years. I feel like I had to put him here, even though he's definitely, when I watch with my eyes, I don't enjoy his style of running as much as these other guys.
No, I guess the thing with Henry that has always been the knock for me, even when he was playing in Alabama, he can hit a hole and go, and he's such a great power back. I mean, you think back to when they were playing the Patriots in Foxborough, and the Titans just leaned on him, and there was nothing Bill Belichick could do. Scheme it up. To stop it. They just Henry enforced his will against a really good Patriots defense. My knock on him is he cannot receive the ball.
Correct.
He cannot be used in the screen game. He cannot be used in the slot. He cannot be used on wheel routes. He needs such a head of steam to break guys in the open field. I mean, he's got good footwork, but he's not shifty like these other guys. And that's always been my knock on him. Again, you think back to that Patriots game and that run that the Titans had losing the AFC Championship to the eventual winners of the Chiefs. They just leaned on Henry that whole season, and you see it kind of wearing him out as the year goes, injuries last year. I think as you get older, you're going to kind of see that regression more and more. But, yeah, he's a clear top 5, I think. Even with the guys I mentioned in that group, I think you've got to put him in there. Just my 3, I feel like there's some separation. So that was your 2, right?
Correct.
And you talked about the importance of your number 1. So it means I've got 2 guys, or I've got one, or my number 2 rather. I think our number 1's the same. I hope my number 2. You probably don't even have as an honorable mention, and that's Nick Chubb of the Browns.
No, I was actually thinking when you talked about your honorable mentions, you didn't say him. And in my head, I was thinking, dude didn't mention Nick Chubb as an honorable mention. What in the world? Yeah, I thought you had him at like 8 instead of 2. And I'm thinking, what? Because Chubb's awesome.
No, he is awesome, man. And I think you're going to get a lot more longevity out of Chubb than you are out of Henry. Not that matters in these rankings, but just from a evaluation standpoint, from a franchise standpoint, I think if you're going to build a team, you go Chubb just because how complete he is. As a pass blocker in the receiving game, between the tackles, laterally, he's awesome. He's my number 2.
I think he has receiving ability, but the Browns don't really throw it to him. They put Kareem Hunt in most of the time, but I think he can do it. But like as a pure ball carrier, he might be like the best pure ball carrier in the league.
Yeah, well, we'll get to our number 1, but before we do, the thing I like about Chubb and Mixon, love the Chubb, big fan of Chubb. When you think about Mixon, before they had Burrow, Bengals are the same thing. Before they had Zach Taylor, they never utilized Mixon properly. He's always between the tackles. It was with Giovanni Bernard. It was always something. And then Burrow gets there and it's, we can actually use him as a weapon and utilize his versatility. It's the same thing with Chubb. I don't know if it's a Baker Mayfield thing. I don't know if it was a health thing maybe last year, a Kevin Stefanski thing. We're unfortunately probably never going to see Deshaun Watson throwing the ball. But I do think he's got just as much ability as Mixon does. Not as much as McCaffrey. That's the best receiving guy, I think, in the NFL, probably along with Kamara. But Chubb does have versatility. It amazes me why offenses won't utilize their bell cow in the receiving game as much as they should. But he's got just as much talent as Mixon in that department, I think.
I think so, too. I guess since they have Kareem Hunt, and he is pretty much a receiving back, and they use it that way. But I think if they start giving Chubb targets, he would produce.
I think part of it, too, when you have I forgot what Njoku's contract was. I think it was 4 years over 80. So you got a $20 million tight end. You've got Odell Beckham and Jarvis Landry, and then a young stud and Donovan Peoples-Jones at the time. How much targets do you want to give your bell cow running back? I think that's a lot to do with it. Last year, you probably saw him utilize Chubb more in the passing game than they have in years past, even with Hunt, because they didn't have Beckham. Landry was often inconsistent or not on the field, so their only wide receiver is Donovan Peoples-Jones, who's a former 6th-round pick. I think that's why. But going forward, maybe the quarterback situation will resolve itself to where we can see him get those targets.
Yeah. And then I think number one, I think you could describe this guy as Nick Chubb as a ball carrier, but he has the receiving production as well. Jonathan Taylor.
Yep.
Jonathan Taylor was awesome this past year. He's been awesome since he's been drafted. He was awesome in college. This guy was a superstar all the way. To me, he's kind of like if Saquon didn't get hurt.
I was just thinking the same thing.
Yeah, I mean, he's just so complete. He's ripped. He can do everything. He can carry your offense. He's a superstar.
Thighs the size of tree trunks.
Oh, my gosh.
If the Colts make the playoff last year, there's a case to be made. He's league MVP. He's the entire reason the Colts had the season they did. It didn't have anything to do with Carson Wentz. The defense they crapped the bed against the Jaguars. Jonathan Taylor was the reason the Colts won as many games as they did that year. And like I said, they made the playoffs. There's a strong case to be made that he's league MVP, and he's just he's awesome.
He is. He's good at everything. There's nothing he can't do at a high level.
I would even argue, comparing him to Saquon, that's always how I felt. He's even better than Saquon was as a rookie and in the second year. I think he's built to be more durable.
Yeah.
His Saquon was really ripped, obviously, too, more ripped than you and I will ever be or could dream of. But Taylor just has that extra bit of muscle on him. And I don't know if it's just the way he walks or runs or what, but he doesn't present himself as injury prone. You watch Saquon and you're just waiting for a hamstring to pull.
Yeah.
Jonathan Taylor, you kind of have best of both worlds of not quite Christian McCaffrey in the receiving game, but he can do a lot with the ball in space. You get the Derrick Henry pass protection and that kind of Nick Chubb between the tackles. He's just he's a completion of our top threes really put together. So
he's an absolute stud.
Absolute stud.
Yeah. Quarterback, man. Everybody sure wants to hear quarterback. Saved it for last. So you had to stick around if you wanted to hear it. Me and Josh were talking beforehand, and I said that in my tier one, I think there's 4 guys. So I had to leave one out. Josh said his tier one was 3 guys. So he didn't have to leave a tier 1 guy out. But I'll go first. My number 3.
All right.
It's Josh Allen. My number 3 is Josh Allen. And this guy in the playoffs just looked like he looked like a freaking superhero out there. I mean, he was utterly dominant in just about every facet you can be for a quarterback. He's 6'5", 235, 240, maybe 250. I don't know what he weighs. He's mobile. He's got probably the strongest arm in the league. He's become very accurate. Now he can read defenses. Now he can throw with anticipation. He is a build-a quarterback, and he could be number 1 very soon. And he might be number 1 right now.
My number 3, it's a little contentious. Patrick Mahomes.
Okay, yeah.
3.
It doesn't even upset me because these guys are so good.
No, they are. And we'll kind of fly through this list if you don't mind, because I want to get to maybe our other 2 honorable mentions to see who we'd have in our 5. But Mahomes, I wouldn't say he's taking a step back, but the league kind of is on to him with some of his antics, some of the gimmick things he does. He's still a really good quarterback, and you kind of saw that down the stretch when he started putting the stuff together. He stopped playing like a rookie and started playing like a seasoned vet. He started hanging around in the pocket longer and waiting for stuff to develop, and it's like, oh, crap, that actually works. But, I think he's a clear number 3. How long he plays in the league is however long he wants to. And whenever he decides to hang it up is probably when Andy Reid decides to hang it up.
Yeah, for real. Yeah, really. And he's my number 2. So
great.
Revealing that, Patrick Mahomes, all the reason you're saying, I mean, he's had arguably the best start of anybody in history in his first 3 seasons starting. I got him number 2.
Isn't it funny when you think about quarterbacks? They beat the Niners in 19, or I guess 20, but it was the 19th season.
Yes, yeah.
You hear the same thing over and over again. Oh, it's the start of a dynasty. Oh, it's the start of a dynasty.
I know.
Oh, how many is he going to win?
Yeah.
Let's see LeBron in Miami. Not 7, not 8, no. It's so hard to get back there. You see it with guys like Joe Burrow. We were talking about in division rankings, how hard it is for you to make it. Now you look at the division that they're in now, and Derek Carr's got Devontae Adams. That's nothing to be trifled with. You got Russell Wilson out there. You got Justin Herbert. It's such a
unreal.
tough division, but it's always funny to me when they anoint guys as the heir to the dynasty.
I know it.
Not
It's so
gonna happen.
quick. Yeah.
My
Every
number
time.
2, I don't think there's much to say about this guy. He can still do it at this age. Aaron Rodgers.
Oh, wow. I know who your number 1 is then. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll just go ahead. Aaron Rodgers is my number 1.
All right.
So,
We have the same top 3.
yeah.
So my number 1, Josh Allen.
Yeah.
I think he did kind of take that, or not kind of, he did take the leap this year. You saw him take strides last year, but this year, that playoff game was monumental. And that's going to do more towards his legacy, I feel like, losing that game, motivating him this offseason. If they can somehow put it all together, get the monkey off their back, exercise the 40 years of demons they've had with the 3 back-to-back Super Bowl losses under Jim Kelly back in the 80s, it's automatically one of the best stories in all of football. But you just think about him as a quarterback, built like a tight end, strong as an ox, can throw the football over those mountains, and somehow just continues to get better and better and better. The leap he's taken as a rookie to now is just
it's unbelievable. He was bad in his first 2 seasons. He was a bad quarterback for 2 years. And now he is like what you try to build in Madden and maybe fail to even accomplish in Madden as far as just how talented a guy is. Unbelievable.
And like we talked about ad nauseum about Trey Lance, the biggest leap a quarterback will take, the biggest leap a team takes is between week 1 and 2. That's the same as in college football, high school football, the NFL. Whether you see it on the field or not, the biggest leap a team takes between week 1 and 2. You get all the butterflies out.
Yeah.
You are who you are after that. The biggest leap a player takes, specifically quarterback, is between year 1 and 2 for the same reasons as a team week 1 to 2.
Yeah.
Josh Allen is one of the few guys who never took a leap in year 2.
Yeah.
People in Buffalo were ready to ship him out of town.
Yeah, that's right. And
here we are, league MVP candidate. He's going to get all the Super Bowl hype in the world.
And let me say, that's a pet peeve of mine where everybody throws Josh Allen takes as old takes exposed or freezing cold takes.
Yeah.
No, at the time, Josh Allen stunk, okay? We were right. When I said it, I said Josh Allen is a disaster in his rookie year. I was right, but he improved. I didn't think he would improve this much, but he was bad, and now he is glorious.
Yeah, no, like you said, there's a case to be made. I think he is number 1, but it doesn't matter where you have him. He needs to be in your top 3. He should be in your top 2, and there's a strong case to be made. He's number 1 already.
In my opinion, these top 3 guys, I think you can swap it around in any order because it's my tier 1. That's how I feel about it, and I had a hard time. I had a hard time having Josh Allen at 3, but I just think Aaron Rodgers, back-to-back MVP seasons, and the way he does it, like, let me say this first. A lot of people were complaining that Derrick Henry didn't win MVP in 2020 when he ran for 2,000 yards because they were saying, man, this has only been done 5-6 times or whatever. People rarely – it's a historically great season. Aaron Rodgers also had a historically great, arguably top 5 level season because he threw 48 touchdowns in 2020, right? If you look up most touchdown passes in a season, it's tied for 5th, right? But look at the other 5, because that includes 6 being tied for 5th. Look at the other 5. Look at the interception numbers. All of them are at least double of what Aaron – he had 48 and 5. And then this year he, what was it, like 40 and 5 or something like that? He has mastered this ability to take shots, make big throws while protecting the football and not turning it over. It's unbelievable, man.
It is, man.
Sick.
He's up there with Christian McCaffrey-like numbers, Jamar Chase-like numbers as a rookie. There are things that you think about over and over and over again is just guys that just load up stats. And like you said, I think that top three,
Yeah.
it's clear. Real quick
Yeah.
before we wrap it up,
Yep.
Who would you have in that kind of next tier? For me, I think it's two clear guys, and then a smaller gap, a couple more, and then probably pretty much everybody else. But who, if you were going to have two honorable mentions, who would they be?
Well, for me, like I said, my tier one has 4 guys. I put Brady in the same, but to me,
Sure.
he's the clear 4, but still a notch above everybody else. So those are my top 4. My 5th would be Justin Herbert.
Yeah.
And I think my 6th would be Joe Burrow.
I completely agree.
Yeah.
That's exactly what I had in mind.
Yeah.
Was Brady 4, Herbert 5, and then a smaller gap, Burrow. And then I've got guys like Derek Carr, Russell Wilson, Matthew Stafford, the rest of those guys.
Yes.
Before you get to some of these unproven guys. But to me, anyway, the top 3, you can swap them around, like you said, whatever order you want to put them in. All these guys have Hall of Fame potential, no doubt. You've got Brady, who a couple years ago was probably number 1 on this list.
Yeah.
He's my honorable mention at 4. And then Herbert at 5. It's a shame he plays in the division he does, and for the head coach he has currently, who can't make right decisions. But that would be my number 5.
Yeah. Man, well, that was it. Best players, each position. Debate a wall. I don't care. Josh, before we conclude.
Hold on. I got to throw this back to Twitter before we head out. Someone actually told me that was to talk to a wall.
Yeah.
Is that what you're referencing, or did you get the same person in your mentions as well?
I've just heard it in the past.
Yeah, it was a woman who hasn't tweeted since 2019, but just replies to 49ers fans that she thinks has bad takes. And she told me to talk to a wall, but that
that's
kind
nice
of cracked me up. Actually, I hadn't heard that one before.
Oh, okay. Yeah, no, I'm familiar with that one. You got a fact of the week for us, my man?
Much like how I'm feeling right now, former President Lyndon B. Johnson used to take phone calls on the toilet. He would spend several hours in there a day and is known to take calls not only about Vietnam, about the Cold War, personal calls, and even reporter interviews while he was on the toilet.
Talk about multitasking, man.
Yeah. I don't know how long, because back in those days, nothing was wireless, how long his phone line was, or if he
I didn't even think about that for some reason.
Or if he had a special bathroom phone that just sat on the wall next to the toilet.
That's disgusting.
I just can't imagine being in the Cold War, threat of nuclear war. Where's the president? He's on the can.
Yeah, that's amazing. That is a good one.
Heart of a champion.
Absolutely. And we'll talk about some more champions next week when we talk about the best defensive players in the league. What a smooth transition. Until then, this has been the 49-Yard Dash. I'm Steven. That's Josh. Peace out, everybody.
Grant Cohn for life.